Whenever you're ready, it's recording.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kanika Verma, and I thank all of you for coming to this presentation this morning. It's the first session in the morning, and I appreciate all of you being here. The title of my presentation is Role of Geography Department Programs in Improving Geospatial Thinking of Undergraduate Students in the United States. National Research Council, almost about a decade ago, it came out with this groundbreaking report about spatial thinking that defined spatial thinking as a constructive combination of three elements: spatial concepts such as distance, direction, location, representation tools like maps, videos, charts, graphs, GIS, and reasoning processes such as analyzing, predicting, depicting, describing. The NRC publication, it came out with other recommendations and other characteristics of spatial thinking, and collaborating with other research that's there in the literature. It tells us that spatial thinking improves educational outcomes in students, such as it helps students complete their college degrees and also encourage students to take up STEM careers. Spatial thinking is also helpful in many problem-solving situations in everyday life, at home, at school, at workplace, such as helping students finish assignments in a better way when they're better spatial thinkers. And not just in geography, but spatial thinking is like, you can apply it to so many disciplines such as geology, such as art, such as education. When you think deep into it, they have different spatial thinking modes. Spatial thinking is therefore helpful in many careers, such as transportation, agriculture, urban planning, military, art, image analysis, astronomy, medicine, map making, and so on. So when I was doing my dissertation research about geospatial thinking of undergraduates in the United States, and when I was looking into this, that how much spatial thinking and geospatial thinking in particular help students achieve their academic goals and their career goals. So the take-home message is that it's not just to encourage students to become geography majors, because geography, of course, helps people and students become better geospatial thinkers, but even if a student does not want a career in geography, taking one or two college-level geography courses, such as what Shimantini was talking about in the previous presentation, taking an urban geography course, such as hers, would expose the students to field learning, right? To field-based research, and they will, after the course, become better geospatial thinkers. So that was about I got distracted, that was about my other presentation and other strand of research, but today I'm talking about something else. NRC report also identified one of its predominant goal is to help foster a generation of students here in America who have the habit of mind to think spatially in their everyday life. So they become habitual spatial thinkers. We train students in such a way in our courses. So maybe Shimantini is not doing it explicitly, but taking students out in the field. With her methods, students are trained to become better spatial thinkers when they're out, when they're navigating, when they're doing it on their own, right? When they're trying to find a way out in Jackson Heights, and when they're trying to understand culture, when they're talking to people, they are becoming better spatial thinkers. They're becoming better geospatial thinkers when they're doing this. So we have to, train our classes, our classroom modules or programs in such a way, our assessments in such a way that explicitly or implicitly we are training better spatial thinkers, better geospatial thinkers in our classrooms. So the report recommended that all levels in the educational system, starting from kindergarten through college, there should be spatial thinking education incorporated in the subjects that we're already teaching. And there should also be systematic research as to what is the nature of spatial thinking, what are its characteristics, how does spatial thinking work, how do students they incorporate spatial thinking. So my research is an outcome of one of the recommendations of that NRC report. So we all know, being geographers and here at a geography conference, that geography is a spatially enabled discipline, right? Because it works on concepts, spatial concepts such as location, direction, distance, patterns. So we comprehend scale changes and location identification, regional analysis, and so on. And then other researchers, prominent geographers, they also identified that from the many questions that geography research should address, one of the most important one is, what is the nature of spatial thinking, reasoning, and abilities? And then, now spatial thinking is a large concept, and geospatial thinking is a subset of it. So it's like spatial thinking is an umbrella term, and geospatial thinking is a subset of spatial thinking. Now spatial thinking, I can be doing it, in tabletop, looking at geometric figures, but that's not geospatial thinking. Geospatial thinking focuses at the level of Earth, because that's geo. Of course, there are differences among people, right, as to how well, in how much time they understand and do something. And therefore, spatial thinking is not different. There are differences among students as to how they apply spatial thinking in their everyday life, as to how they apply their spatial thinking in their academic life or in their work life. So my research, when I was looking at these differences among student groups in spatial thinking, these variances, I looked at several variables, such as I looked at sex, age, I looked at ethnicities, I looked at academic majors, whether students who are geography majors are better geospatial thinkers than other majors. And there was a statistical difference. Whether students who are taking other STEM majors such as geology or astronomy or physics, and these disciplines, they also focus explicitly on spatial concepts, and their geospatial thinking were better than students who were in education or business or criminal justice. Because in those disciplines, there is not so much explicit attention given to spatial concepts. So I looked at those variables, I looked at census divisions, looking at geographical differences, I looked at students coming from rural or urban backgrounds, and I looked at several of these variables. But today, in this presentation, I'm going to focus on the variable geography department levels. That whether students who are getting these were all undergraduate students in my national sample that I conducted, but whether these undergraduate students, they're getting their degree from an undergraduate only degree program such as yours, right? Or from a master's degree program such as yours. Or from a PhD degree program such as mine, Texas State. So I was looking, I was trying to look at these differences, because if I'm getting my undergraduate degree from a PhD granting geography department, it's going to have more resources, it's going to have a diverse faculty, it's going to have a diverse research strands in the department, right? Versus if I'm getting my undergraduate geography degree from a program, from a geography program, maybe that's in a rural setting, in a very small university, very small department, it's going to have a lack of resources, small faculty, not so diverse research strands among the faculty, and do these things matter when these students go into their geography classes and explicitly learn these spatial and geospatial concepts in those departments? So that's the purpose of my presentation today. That's the variable I'm looking at. Do undergraduate students from different geography department programs, they differ in their geospatial thinking? Now, looking at a little bit of literature review, what's there in the literature, psychology, right, a discipline, has been looking at spatial differences among people beginning in 1940s and 1950s. It's nothing new in psychology. They have been looking at, such as if you look at these other disciplines, it's mostly from psychology, sociology. They have been looking at spatial differences, spatial ability differences among people, and they mostly focus on variables such as sex or gender, right, male and female. And majority of the studies, they found out that males are better spatial thinkers than women. And therefore, in geography, very recently, there has been a great deal of literature research being done at the grade level, whether students who are high school students and then university students, because they have more academic geography exposure. Of course, they have better geospatial thinking, and age equals experience in life, and so on. So when I was looking at the literature and what variables have been covered, most of the research work focused on these two variables, whether in geography or in other disciplines. And therefore, there was research lacking in spatial thinking or geospatial thinking for ethnicities, right? For whether white students are better than Asian or Hispanic students. And then there was research lacking on cultural differences, on geographical location, academic major differences, and all the other variables that I mentioned. And therefore, it also came to my mind I should look at the geography department program level differences. So the null hypothesis for my research, for my presentation today, there is no difference in geospatial thinking of students who get their degrees from bachelor's, master's, or doctoral granting degree geography programs. Research hypothesis, geospatial thinking of students from bachelor's, master's, or doctoral degree granting geography programs differ significantly. My research question, does geography department degree granting level influence the geospatial thinking of undergraduate students? So the dependent variable in this study is geospatial thinking, and the independent variable was, of course, the geography department degree granting level at these three levels. Now, because the dependent variable is geospatial thinking, I need to have an instrument to measure geospatial thinking of students, and because there are few standardized tests of geospatial thinking, especially in the field of geography, I adapted and modified questions that were published in STAT, which is Spatial Thinking Ability Test. It was published by Lee and Bednarz in different research studies, and it was attested by the American Association of Geographers, AAG. Now, I used the modified version of STAT, and I called it Geospatial Thinking Survey, and then I did a national level study. 1,479 undergraduate students from 61 public universities in 32 states, and the survey design was such that it covered 9 census divisions of the United States. So I did that national level study to look at a bunch of these variables, but the focus of the presentation today is looking at the geography department programs. So this map shows the national level from where the data was collected, and if you can see on the map, the bold black boundaries are showing the census divisions of the United States, and then each of these ovals tells us the number of the sample size in each census division. So for example, from West, South, Central Census Division, these are the location of the universities from where the data was collected, and 253 students from West, South, Central Division participated in the study. And if you can see this legend, the green little triangle shows the undergraduate degree granting geography program, the master's degree granting geography program, and the red square is the doctoral degree granting geography program. So this is the map showing the data. And then another representation, that was a visual, and it's a tabular form. And I'm not going to go very deep into it, but this table shows us the breakup of the entire sample. So how many students from the doctoral departments in South Atlantic Division and so on, and that's the total number of students in the study, 1,479. Coming to this survey, Geospatial Thinking survey, what were the questions, some of the questions? So there were questions that were looking at geospatial pattern and transition, and students, they had to deal with two spatial concepts at the same time, looking at what is the geospatial pattern on the landscape, and then how they transition that from a map to a graph. So questions like this, questions focusing on route finding, direction, orientation, questions focusing on geospatial profiles, such as imagining a 3D visualization of the landscape, and then again transitioning it to a graph. So they're imagining when they're doing this survey. Geospatial association and transition, geospatial association, and then there were a few questions that were focusing on geospatial shapes, such as point, line, or area. Geospatial overlay, finding an optimum geographical location based on certain criteria that's being presented to the students. So it's like the overlay function that's in GIS, working like that, but they're doing all this geospatial thinking in their minds without using any GIS. So questions and concepts such as this were on the survey. Now, what were the analyses and findings for this particular variable? I used ANOVA, analysis of variance, for looking at the mean differences of student scores on the survey. So here, this table, the total possible score on the survey was 10, because there were 10 questions on the survey, and I gave each point to each question. And the number of students in each group, doctoral, master's, and undergraduate degree programs. The highest score for each of the 3 student groups was 10. The lowest score for the doctoral degree granting programs was 1. So they did a little better, and the master's and undergraduate, there were students who got a 0 on the survey coming from those programs. But if you look at the mean score, the average score of each of these groups, you can see that the highest mean score was for the students who came from the master's degree granting programs and not doctoral, as the hypothesis was. So we do not see a pattern here, and also the ANOVA results tell us that this was not statistically significant. So the differences, the group variances, were not statistically significant, so it did not work. No statistically significant difference was found among the geospatial thinking differences of these 3 groups of students coming from different geography programs. So the degree granting level of geography departments does not necessarily impact geospatial thinking of undergraduate students. The mean score of students from master's geography program is highest, but because it's not significant, we cannot say with certainty that yes, students who come from master's degree granting programs have better geospatial thinking than students who either come from only undergraduate or only doctoral granting program departments. So, human beings, in conclusion, I would like to just summarize that we comprehend information, right? We either comprehend it temporally, like how we do in history. We comprehend information spatially, how we do in geography, or our brains comprehend information causally, like, what's the reason behind this? For example, things that we do in science. So, how we think matter. And geospatial thinking is one of many thinkings that our brains can do such as mathematical reasoning, verbal reasoning. So spatial and geospatial thinking is one such thinking. And different spatial concepts that were on the survey, different questions, they are different. So a student who is good at, for example, location and direction may not be very good at understanding spatial patterns. A student who is very good at understanding geospatial overlays may not be good at navigating himself or herself in the environment. When I'm out in the streets, I still need Google Maps on my phone to work. I'm not good at it, right? I cannot navigate, I cannot remember landmarks and street patterns. So there are differences, and my research has looked on these individual spatial concepts also. So I'm publishing different papers on each strand of research. But here, in this presentation, to ensure that students are capable of competing globally in different employment areas such as logistics, transportation, image analysis, GIS, civil engineering, real estate, urban planning are different. Students today, they require solid spatial and geospatial thinking skills. The US Department of Labor, in its job advertisements, require geospatial talents as one of the skills. So geospatial talents, geospatial skills are on the rise, right? It doesn't matter what field you're going to, as you choose as your career, but it is important today. However, based on the findings of this particular research, it does not matter if students get their undergraduate geography degrees from bachelor's, master's, or doctoral geography programs. So, we know what Shimantini just talked about, coming from a bachelor geography granted program, that she's taking her students to field trips. She's exposing her students to spatial thinking concepts, to geospatial thinking concepts out in the field. And they're learning. And when they will graduate from the geography program, even from one or two, a couple geography courses, they will be better geospatial thinkers than their counterparts. Thank you. Questions?
So I have two. When you were doing the study, did you look at class size?
From where the student sample came?
Yeah.
Not really, because it was an online survey, because I wanted to do a national level survey and I cannot go to each university. So it was an online survey and I did it through SurveyMonkey. And I contacted instructors and different geography programs across the country. I actually phoned them, emailed them, and then it was voluntary and it was anonymous. So I could not track, like, for example, from your class. If I contacted you and from your class, only 5 students did the survey because it was completely voluntary. Then I could not track what was your class size. Or from his class, only 1 student did the survey. Went online in his or her free time and completed the survey. I did not track what was your class size. So I did not do that.
Yeah, because I was thinking one more thing. What I have learned is that class size matters.
Yeah,
Because
I'm sure it
we
does.
all got our doctorates from doctoral degree granting programs, and we all know in any doctoral granting program, terrible as it sounds, the undergraduate is just there to bring in the money.
Right.
Nobody pays attention, right?
And when you have a large class size, you really can't do
Exactly.
one-on-one. You
Yeah.
can't do class discussions. You can't do
Also,
such field trips.
a lot of the courses are taught by TAs.
Right.
Who, well, you know what that is, but they are not taught by the professors. And I was just wondering, does that have?
Of course, it may have an impact. Of course, you're absolutely right. So when we were talking about before my presentation, Texas State, right? It has the largest undergraduate geography program in the country, and the World Regional Geography classes, they have more than 150 students in one class, and they're sitting in one big seminar hall, and you're not doing things that you want to do. Like in my smaller classes, I encourage students to go to, just like what you're doing, to go to cultural events on campus, right? There are different student organizations that are doing ethnic events, right? Cultural events, international events. And when students, they go to these events and it's free, and they're getting free ethnic food, and they really enjoy, they develop new friendships, and they learn about spatial and geospatial concepts at those events. So in big classes where you have like 150 students, you can't do things that you want to do.
I was just thinking,
and therefore it matters.
Yeah, because I was thinking about my grad school, and yeah, world regions was like 100 plus, always.
That's true.
And how much can you, it's not the instructor's fault. You can barely keep them focused.
Yeah, that's true. I'm doing another research on active learning, and it's exactly what we're talking about right now, that class size. It's how much active learning you can do, how much group projects, how much project-based learning or problem-based learning you can do in your classes, depending on your class size. That's absolutely true. And of course, when you're doing such projects in your classes, and that better exposes students to these geospatial concepts, versus, I'm just coming and lecturing and then I'm just going because it's 150 students, I don't have time to do other things. I'm not exposing my students well to these concepts, to these geospatial concepts and geospatial thinking, because I'm not asking them to do things on their own. I'm just coming, narrating stories, and then going. So it definitely matters. Any other question?
Did you look at I know you mentioned some of the other studies looked at grade level. Did you ask the students, like, if they were a sophomore, freshman, like what their class standing was? And were those results significant?
Yes, I did. And if I go back to the literature review summary, so these people who have done these research in geography, looking at grade levels, I look at academic classification, whether the undergraduate students in the study, were they sophomore, freshman, senior, or junior, and that was statistically significant. And of course, senior students had highest mean scores on the survey, and freshman students had the lowest. And I think it's very well connected to when they are senior students, and of course they're geography majors, right? And that's why they're taking more geography courses. Versus if they're freshmen, they may or may not be geography majors. Some of them have not declared their major yet, and they're just exposing themselves to different, subjects in college. So they're taking courses like World Regional or Intro to GIS or something like that, and they're freshmen, and they're just taking 1 or 2 geography courses maybe. So it depends. It matters how much formal academic exposure to geography you have in that particular program.
I would just like to add to what you just said, because that is so true. Where I am teaching right now, they don't even know what geography is. And nobody, and I mean nobody, comes in as a geography major. Because when you're in Southern West Virginia, you either want to be a doctor or a psychologist.
Yeah.
I'm not even kidding here, people.
That's
or
you Texas State.
Or you want to be in the prison system.
Right, criminal justice,
yes.
Psychology.
Yeah, and it's only after they take 2 or 3, or at least one of our courses, that they're like, oh my god, I actually like what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to do this.
That's very true, even for Texas State, where I was teaching as a graduate assistant, and it has the largest geography undergraduate program in the country, but those large geography classes aren't filling the core credit requirements.
Right.
When students declare, when they enter and they declare something else as their major, but not geography.
Exactly.
But after taking some of these courses, they change their majors. And then we recruit. Yeah, Texas State is a good geography recruiter too. But when the thing is, when they're coming into college, they're not geography majors. They may change, but you're absolutely right, and I can't agree more. It's even in large geography programs.
It's a countrywide thing here.
Yeah, it's about what returns are you getting.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and that's one of the other things that my research also focuses on. I always emphasize this in my presentation and in my classes, that even if you do not want to be a geography major, it's okay. I'm not here to force you to become geography majors, but do take a couple geography classes when you're in college. Do take these undergraduate geography programs because it exposes you to see what we're doing, to better geospatial thinking, and this will help you in whatever career you choose. It will help you analyze the world through a geographic lens, and you will be much better than your counterparts. Thank you so much.